All right. Hi, everybody. It's Mackenzie. I am doing this assignment over women's body perception, what they watch, and its effects on what they eat. If I can, there we go. So there's a couple of different questions that I wanted to ask relating to these articles. One, does sexually explicit media exposure affect the way that women perceive their own bodies? And two, how does the way we perceive our own bodies affect our diet or the way that we eat? One study that I found, it is, kind of a specific sample. So, whether or not it correlates to an entire population or not may differ. But it's on body perception and meal type across age and gender on a Mediterranean island. Um, by meal type, there's a couple of different questions that they asked here, and it basically had to do with the amount of consumption. They ended up doing a cross-sectional analysis uh, in relation to BMI, so like their actual BMI score, self-perception, so how they see themselves, whether they see themselves as slim, moderate, or overweight, and then the degree of accuracy of their self-perception, so whether they overestimate their weight, underestimate it, or guess accurately. Here are some of the numbers. Basically, what they translate down to is that the ones who were most likely to perceive their weight as heavier than they actually were was women. Um, they noticed that there was a large bit of younger adults and children that were not eating complete meals, but they ended up finding out that was associated more with cultural changes to dietary habits as they would adopt more of a Western diet. Um, they also found that it's not the BMI classification of weight that affects the completion or incompletion of a meal, but how they perceive their weight. So, someone being overweight doesn't necessarily mean that they will eat more or less of a meal, but if they see themselves as overweight, they would eat less of a meal. Um, there was another study I looked at, Loving Oneself, the Associations Among Sexually Explicit Media, Body Image, and Perceived Realism. There's a couple of different questions that this one asks. One, does exposure to sexually explicit media affect body perception? And two, does the way you perceive the media affect the way that you perceive your own body? As far as that second one goes, they were testing how realistic you thought that the media was. So, like, over exaggerated pornographic content, especially that was common more with Eastern individuals that were studied, tended to be perceived less real. And some of the more novice stuff tend to be perceived as more real. So what did we ask here? They ended up doing an anonymous online survey, and it asked three different questions. One was the frequency of use for sexually explicit material. The second one is the perceived realism of the sexually explicit material. And then the third is body image, but they broke that down into five different categories, starting with body satisfaction, genital self image, comfort being nude, penis breast size satisfaction, and self esteem. And here's kind of what they found. They saw that sexually explicit material had a positive correlation with body image, but that had to do with how real the explicit material was perceived. And this was true for both men and women. And then with differences between men and women, they found that overall body image scores for men had more to do with body satisfaction and self esteem, whereas with women, it had to do with comfort being nude and self esteem. So here's a little graph for both of them. It's got some more numbers on there for you, but it basically kind of explains how the exposure to the sexually explicit material is mediated by the perceived realism of the material itself, and then each of the different categories of body image, how those are affected. So, what does this basically mean overall? There was a positive correlation between realistic sexually explicit material use and body image, regardless of age. Um, comfort being nude and self-esteem were the strongest contributors to body image for women. We just went over. It's also more common for women to perceive themselves as larger than they actually are. And the perception of body image directly correlates with the likelihood of completing your meals. So, jokingly, in summary, watch more realistic porn, finish your meals, and you'll feel good about your body. Here are my resources for you. You guys, I've got the DOIs, so you can click on those directly or Google search by title or the DOI, and you'll be able to pull up the full PDF for them. Thank you guys so much.